And a good Thursday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here for a look at your extended forecast. We have a lot to cover in terms of going into the weekend. It's kind of a rare thing that we see in the summertime where we have little to no rain chances, although it's going to come with a bit of a catch. Before we get there, we have another pleasant afternoon to talk about. But first things first, let's talk about what happened yesterday. And it was quite a busy satellite and radar image, I would say. I did take a look because I did start to see the rain outside when I was at home yesterday afternoon, and then I took a look at my radar app and it kind of looked like you dip the tip of a paintbrush in just a bucket of paint, then you kind of flick it all over Central Georgia. They were very widely scattered showers, maybe a couple of storms, but overall everything remained below severe criteria once again. So some areas did get very lucky, including kind of the west and southwest edge of Macon County, about 2 inches of rain yesterday. 1.5 inches down in Vienna, just over an inch west of Butler, and 1.3 inches of rain just north of Irwinton. And there are some other values over here that didn't quite amount to as much, but overall most of Central Georgia probably just got 1/10 of an inch of rain or simply a trace of rain like we did up here in downtown Macon. Only 1/10 of a rain in areas of northern Houston County and Warner Robins, and then just over an inch down here on the county line of Telfair and Wheeler counties. Boy, those southeastern counties have definitely been a hot spot for some of our higher rainfall totals as of the last couple of weeks. So they're definitely trending below or above average. They've definitely gotten their fair share of rain during the month of July. Up here at Middle Georgia Regional Airport, it has not been the same though. First things first, the cloud cover that we had yesterday during the late morning and the early afternoon hours, it really did a number for helping us in terms of our warm up. Only a high temperature of 91 degrees yesterday, which falls 3 degrees shy of average and about 11 degrees shy of the record set back in 1907, 102. As we go into next week, keep this number in mind because we very well might be flirting with record-breaking territory depending on what the records are for some days going into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But we did see our year departure of rain go down. Yesterday, this number was at 1.75 inches above where we should be at this point of the year. So we saw a steady downtick of about 0.14 inches. And we still are having a little bit of trouble with some of our numbers up here in Macon, so it doesn't necessarily look like we recorded any precipitation. If we did, I think it's probably going to be 1/100 of an inch or so, not much rain whatsoever. Sunrise yesterday, 6:43, and sunset now is below 8:40, so that sunset is starting to get earlier and earlier into the evening hours, and that sunrise continuing to get a little bit later. So the days in terms of daylight hours are continuing to get shorter and shorter, and it will continue to do so as we head into the fall, eventually as we go into daylight saving time ending, and then we go all the way to the shortest day of the year, which will be a couple days before Christmas. So back to average for tomorrow. That's what we're looking at in terms of our average high temperatures, but today is still looking to be slightly below average. Of course, it's going to feel above average just like yesterday did. A mostly dry weekend, something we do not say very often, which is great. It's the last weekend that many people are trying to squeeze in that last little bit of summertime plans because we are kicking off back to school as soon as next Tuesday for Peach County, then next Wednesday for Houston County, and a lot of kids are going to be heading back to school before the end of the week next week. So having a dry weekend will be very opportune. However, it's going to come with a catch that I did mention. How about our first 100-degree day? There's a question mark by there, but I'm giving you a little bit of a tease. And if you tuned into the morning show, you already know what I have forecasted as we go into the beginning of next week. But if you're tuning in here for the first time, then I'll leave that for a bit of a surprise as we head to the end of this extended forecast. This has been the story this morning. We actually had about an hour of window where we got a beautiful sunrise this morning and we could get a great image of it all across our quad view of sky cams, but now it is just another gloomy image with some dark bottoms associated with some of the clouds that we see off in the distance. But it's not entirely cloudy. You can see some breaks in the cloud cover like here in downtown Dublin, a little bit of the blue in the sky. You can see some rays of sunshine peeking through. So it's fairly broken cloud cover, but still nonetheless it is blocking a lot of sunshine here as we head to the 11 a.m. hour. So these numbers on the temperature map, very similar to what we did see at this time yesterday, maybe more so some 80s as opposed to 70s like yesterday. 81 is probably the most popular number. Areas like Eatonton, down to Milledgeville, Gordon, Cochran, Eastman, McRae, over to Rochelle. At the warmest, we see 86 in Vidalia. So yes, we finally got our sensors fixed down in Toombs County. 86 degrees, definitely running ahead of the rest of the pack, maybe indicating that the farther south and southeast that you travel, we're not seeing as much cloud cover present, because 86 is a temperature we would typically see in a mostly sunny day. But the cloud cover isn't having as much of an influence this morning as it did yesterday morning. That's the main message I'm trying to get across, whether you're hovering at 78 or 79 degrees like Roberta and Macon, or you're somewhere around 80, 81, or 82 degrees here at 10:30 this morning. Taking a look at our current temperatures, how do we shape up against the rest of the bunch? And once again, areas over to the west along the Mississippi River, they are just scorching for yet another day. 87 in Little Rock, 85 in Jackson, 86 down in New Orleans as you get to the southern edge of the Mississippi River. 79 here in Macon is actually going to be a bit of an outlier for all of our temperatures around us. 85 in Nashville, 80 over in Montgomery, 85 in Jacksonville, 85 in Charleston. But it does look like that 87 over there in central Arkansas is taking the cake for the warmest number we do see thus far. Of course, Vidalia was popping up in 86, so not too far off that number. But Vidalia is a bit of an outlier here in central Georgia. So the dew point temperatures, we are now seeing this green color get darker and darker, now popping up some 80-degree dew points in Unadilla and Cordele. The thing we were talking about this morning, and we did even see a little bit of it creep into Jasper County, was some light green color. But now we are continuing to see this dark green color take back over. We've seen a steady increase in the moisture content throughout the morning hours, and these dew point temperatures are going to be mighty swampy as we head into the afternoon hours as well. So here's where that slightly drier air is nestled, mainly just up in North Georgia, the North Georgia mountains, getting up into the Appalachian Mountains in western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina. It's not the most widespread by any means, and we did see it yesterday. It was up here in the central Carolinas. It did try to push into the state of Georgia, and it made its presence known probably late yesterday into the overnight hours in the northern portion of the state of Georgia, but didn't necessarily creep down here into our neck of the woods. So yes, you know, the humidity is going to influence what it feels like outside as long as we have that dark green color present. And here's a look at your feels like temperatures before 11 a.m. It already feels like 97 in Vidalia, and that takes the cake. Boy, Vidalia has been left out of the fun with some of their readings as of recently, because now they are back in full force and claiming the warmest feels like temperature in central Georgia right now. Feels like 93 in Gordon, 93 as well in Unadilla, 95 down in McRae as well. But it does look like I think I see more 80s on this map, which is not a bad thing. Those 80s do feel a lot more pleasant than some temperatures in the 90s. But the theme with today is we're going to see a little bit of an uptick in some of the feels like numbers and maybe some of the high temperatures as well, because this cloud cover fairly broken right now. And just like the cloud cover did yesterday, we are going to see it steadily break apart. So we have had a bit of a steady breeze right now, and depending on where you live, the wind is probably coming in from a different direction. Farther up to the north in central Georgia, it's a predominantly easterly breeze, but we're starting to see this south and southeasterly direction with the winds take over farther down to the south. But it looks like the gustier winds are going to be just to the west and northwest of central Georgia. Right now, we're just dealing with a steady breeze, maybe about 5 to 9 miles per hour at the very most, only a 3-mile-per-hour wind over in Swainsboro and Emmanuel County. And that makes sense. Those are going to be the areas where you're not seeing as much blue shade over there. But we have some isolated pockets of maybe seeing some yellow, and that's actually going to correlate with where we're seeing some clusters of some showers here early in the morning hours. So today the main message is below average once again. It is going to be maybe a tad bit warmer than yesterday, but yesterday was a very nice feeling day, especially compared to Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, where we had a heat advisory. Feels like numbers were crawling into the upper 100s, even as high as 112 is what I saw before I made my way home. I'm sure some of those numbers climbed even higher by the time we reached 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. A couple of rain chances still linger in the forecast, and a lot of those are present currently on the satellite and radar picture, but it's a little bit less coverage than what we had yesterday. I had about a 40% chance of a shower or storm yesterday. We've seen a downtick in those chances to about a 30% chance today, and we will continue to see a decreasing rain trend into the weekend. But 92 for a high temperature. Our average high this time of year is 94 degrees. Not going to take us very long to get back to that number. In fact, we're actually looking to get back to that average as we go into tomorrow. But first things first, you want to know how that 92 degree mark is going to feel. Well, at least here in Macon, topping out somewhere around 97 or 98 degrees. There's been a good amount of consistency on this graphic all morning long. And I do believe widespread upper 90s is mainly what you're going to be dealing with. But of course, we're going to have some isolated areas that pop up a triple-digit mark, maybe even a couple degrees above the triple-digit mark. Like we saw, Vidalia already feels like 97 degrees. So you give areas in Toombs County a couple more hours of heating, they're definitely probably going to crawl above that 100-degree mark. But heat indices 100 plus are not necessarily going to be too widespread. I think it's going to be a good mix of probably some upper 90s and maybe a couple of values where we do see some pink shades on that feels like temperature map as we go into the afternoon. Heat alerts right now. The entire state of Georgia, along with many of our neighboring states, do not find themselves in any sort of heat alert. The closest ones are actually going to be up into west central Tennessee around the Nashville area where a heat advisory is in place. That's going to kind of be this salmonish color, orange, shaded, tan color, whatever you want to classify it as. But once you go into kind of this fuchsia color, this hot pink, that's going to be an excessive heat warning. So that's where you're taking the heat an extra step beyond what a heat advisory is. And we have been in our fair share of heat advisories very lately. It does look like the southern component of this has been trimmed off because the rain chances are looking a little bit better down in southern and southern central Louisiana. But we are going to see this excessive heat warning go all the way up the Mississippi River into portions of southern Illinois, eastern Missouri. Heat advisory extends as far west as northern Texas and most of the state of Oklahoma. And we can see even excessive heat watches for portions of, I believe this is Ohio, and over here in the western portion of West Virginia. But that means that they are expecting an excessive heat warning, what we see over here in the hot pink color, over the course of the next day or so. So excessive heat watch is issued way ahead of time, and we'll go over the specific criteria with that in just 1 second. And our criteria for that, you'll see it on the graphic, is not going to be the same as other areas across the country. Areas farther to the north probably don't need values as high as we typically see here in central Georgia to get issued into those heat alerts because we're more accustomed to seeing some blistering temperatures. Feels like the numbers above the triple digits are pretty normal for the months of July and August here in central Georgia. But the other thing that we need to talk about is going to be your satellite and radar picture. So the main thing that you're probably noticing off the bat is more cloud cover is present in our northernmost counties. So the farther south that you travel, not seeing as much cloud cover, especially down to the south and the southeast. So that makes sense why Vidalia's temperature is a couple degrees ahead of what everyone else is. But widely scattered showers already popping up into the picture, having kind of a general southeast to northwest direction to them. We were picking out one on the morning show very early, and you can see it right here starting out in northern Emmanuel County. It crossed over Johnson County and now is eventually scattered out as it moves over in the western portions of Washington County. But not only there, we'll just kind of take a zoomed in picture about what's going on. Scattered about Hancock County, Washington, up into Baldwin County, seeing a cluster of some showers approaching downtown Milledgeville. We do see it in Jones County, just north of Macon here, probably going to clip portions of North Macon, including Rivers Crossing, Arkwright Drive, getting up to Bass Road. Scattered about Monroe County, Jasper, Putnam. Just go ahead and include basically all of our northernmost counties. And farther over to the west, scattered showers across Taylor County, Crawford County, over to Upson County, and there are a few present that are down in Dooley County, making their way into Macon County as well. I just got a glimpse of those on the satellite and radar picture when we had the whole view of central Georgia before I zoomed in on our northern half. So let's take a look at future view. We'll continue to see scattered showers, maybe a storm or two, all the way into the early afternoon window. And then as we head into the evening hours, we're looking at a lot of this rain to fall apart. But we still could hold on to a select few lighter showers that are going to be very isolated in nature, maybe trying to have a bit of steady or heavy rainfall in some select few areas. But overall, it is just looking very widely scattered. A very similar story to what we had yesterday, but I think the coverage is slightly down in nature from about 40% to about 30% this afternoon. That takes us into a dry overnight, into a dry start to your Friday morning. And Friday, as we go into the afternoon hours, a stray shower, a stray storm possibly. Rain chances are not looking very impressive for anything that you have planned outdoors Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So looking good to go, but Friday will be a little bit warmer in light of lesser rain chances, because anytime you get anything in the way of a shower, obviously, even if it is just a light shower, it is going to inhibit that warm up, probably going to cool some of the numbers down just a tad, but just a light shower is going to make it extra muggy outside. I caught one of those stray showers at my house yesterday. I tell you, it rained for about 5 minutes, and then after that rain, all the windows fogged up from the outside. That's just giving you an idea of how humid it can be after some of those rain showers. Let's go all the way into the second day of the weekend, and we're not spending too much time on future view because there's not a lot to talk about. I mean, there is nothing in the way of rain as we go into Saturday. I'm still elected to keep about a 10% chance of rain just to cover the bases, because obviously it's still going to be hot, it's still going to be humid. You can't rule out a stray shower or two, and I don't want someone to maybe just catch a very isolated shower and say, oh, you said it wasn't going to rain today, because typically during the summertime months we see something in the way of rain, whether it's one singular stray shower or it's more widespread scattered rain and a couple of storms. You typically don't go a day completely without rain for such a large area like Central Georgia, and like Future View is continuing to show, maybe just a couple of very light green dots. So the theme over the next 3 days, decreasing rain chances, but increasing high temperatures. 92 for a high today, and that's because we still have this 30% chance of a shower or a storm. I have a 20% chance of seeing a shower or storm on Friday, and a high temperature of 94. So an uptick in that high temperature by 2 degrees, and we continue that theme. Another uptick of about 2 degrees in light of another 10% drop in those rain chances. Not even really confident we'll see anything in the way of a storm on Saturday, so I may elect to take that thunderstorm icon off as we go closer, maybe this time tomorrow. We'll just be talking about a very similar forecast for your Saturday and Sunday in terms of the rain chances, maybe just a slim chance of seeing an isolated shower, but overall, we're going to go without rain chances for a little bit. Now, here's where the fun starts. We are going to continue the warm up even past Saturday. 99 for a high temperature on Sunday before 101. That's what I have forecasted for your Monday afternoon. So yes, we have been very reluctant to climb up to that triple-digit mark. Our high temperature that we've hit, I believe 2 or 3 times so far this year, has been 98 degrees, and that's what we hit as of about 2 days ago in light of that heat advisory. But we still haven't quite made it to the triple-digit mark, so I do finally have a 100-degree day forecasted on your 7-day forecast. But you'll have to stay tuned to the very end, because that is not the only 100-degree day that I do have forecasted. But speaking of the first time that we typically hit 100 degrees for a high temperature in a calendar year, I showed this graphic anytime we really get close to it, but let's just go over it a little bit. On average, July 2nd is typically when we see our first 100-degree day, just kind of averaging out those first times that we've hit the triple-digit mark all time since we started taking records back in the late 1800s. On earliest, it actually happened in 2019 on May 26th. We hit 100 degrees, and it was very early, a little bit premature to hit that 100-degree mark. And on the latest, I do forget what year this was, because I made this graphic probably about a month ago. September 18th was the latest date in a calendar year that we did hit the 100-degree mark for the first time, that is. Obviously, we probably saw our fair share of 100-degree days after that September 18th date, but it probably came after we had already hit 100 degrees in a calendar year. So the big theme, if we do hit 100 degrees as soon as maybe Sunday, Monday into Tuesday, it is going to be behind average by a couple of weeks, but still relatively close to average when you look at this range. I mean, the end of May all the way into middle of September, I'd definitely say that we're kind of trending pretty much right smack dab in the middle, even if it is kind of a couple of weeks past average. But it does look increasingly likely that we are probably going to hit the 100-degree mark. Basically, every model that I've seen, at least for Monday, is forecasting at least 100 degrees. I think at the highest, I've seen some models forecast 103 and 104. So if we are to see a steady uptick and more agreement that, hey, those are going to be the actual temperatures by the time we get to Monday, well, heat advisory criteria, we talk about it, and we typically focus on this far right column right here, what those feels like temperatures are, because the humidity has been running rampant and it has been enhancing the feels like temperatures. So say our high only gets to 95 degrees, well, more than likely you're going to feel about 10 degrees warmer than that number. So it feels like numbers could crawl to 105, which you need good certainty in order for that to occur and a heat advisory to get issued. But we also can see it for the actual air temperature, that actual number, and you can see 103 degrees is the threshold, and that's going to be widespread, 103 degree temperatures. You have to have good certainty in it, once again about 80% certainty in terms of actually issuing a heat advisory for the actual temperatures. But then you get into excessive heat watches and warnings. Like I mentioned, an excessive heat watch, you need a little less certainty. You typically issue those ahead of time, but it's the same threshold as this excessive heat warning. This is just meaning that that excessive heat is going to happen closer to the time that you issue it. The values are still the same. Actual air temperature of 105, and then feels like temperature, of 110, and that's just the minimum value that you have to have. Obviously, if you go above and beyond, it's still going to warrant an excessive heat watch or an excessive heat warning. And I did mention the criteria is not the same across the U.S., so we have different criteria here in central Georgia than areas over to the west, say in Alabama, that Birmingham would have. Those areas along the Mississippi River have. Areas to the north of us, up in states like Illinois, getting to Ohio, West Virginia that we were talking about, their values probably don't need to be as high in order to issue some of these heat alerts because they typically don't see temperatures to this threshold. And probably the lower end of our range right here, actual air temperature and feels like numbers of 103 and 105 respectively, would more than likely warrant an excessive heat warning in areas to the north of us. So let's talk about the humidity. This is something that is going to influence our temperatures. And like I was telling you, those record temperatures that we always talk about, 102, 106 in nature, well, if we kept our humidity around, those numbers would feel up to probably close to around 120 degrees. But the good news is, and this is kind of our saving grace, our muggy meter is actually showing a little bit of fluctuation as we head into the weekend and the beginning of next week. A steady downtick in those humidity levels as we go into Saturday, as we go into Sunday and Monday. And Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are forecasted to be our highest high temperatures of the next 7 days. So of course, these days, if we can get a more comfortable humidity, don't get me wrong, still going to be humid, still going to influence the temperatures and a couple degrees above they're going to feel a couple degrees above what they actually hit, but it's not going to be as much as it would with that dark green color all over the dew point temperatures map. So hopefully we'll continue to see good agreement that Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday we'll have some light green on the dew point temperatures map, but more than likely not going to be very widespread. But we can take a look at the near future. So what are those heat indices going to climb to at least over the next 3 days according to FutureView? We do see 98s here in Macon and Dublin, but also once again some faint hues of that pink color indicating some isolated areas. We'll very likely see some 100-degree marks for the feels like temperatures this afternoon. Now we go into Friday afternoon, 1 degree above. That obviously isn't feeling too much different whatsoever, but what I want to emphasize is that it is a steady little bit of an upward tick, and we are seeing maybe more of a pink shade across areas of central Georgia, so probably more areas will join the 100-degree party this time tomorrow. Now we go into Saturday, and the pink color does continue to be a lot more profound, and we actually are seeing those triple-digit values here in central Georgia. So a steady uptick each and every day, going to get a little bit hotter from today into Friday and into Saturday. But the good news is hopefully the feels like numbers aren't going to be terribly far off what the actual high temperatures are as we head into the end of the weekend. So a big reason why we are seeing this steady warming trend in terms of our actual temperatures is because of the lack of rain chances. We pick up the long range models right here. This is Sunday evening, and I put the pause points on the evenings because that's typically when these long range models have the rain chances popping up. But that's trending a little bit later than what we're used to. Of course, we typically see those afternoon and evening rain chances as opposed to evening and nighttime rain chances. But nonetheless, you don't see anything in the way of rain for your Sunday afternoon or evening. So with less rain chances in the forecast, that has really been helping our forecast out. Like Lou Bryan says, rain is a good thing this time of year because it can help inhibit that warm up. Those temperatures are going to continue to warm up all the way till that 4, 5, and 6 o'clock window. And then as we approach sunset, we'll start to see them steadily cool down. Well, if we have rain pop up before those temperatures can reach their highest, it's going to cool them down or maybe just keep them around the same values that they're already at. And we've been kind of stuck in a pattern this summer where it's been above average rain chances. Typically, we throw a 20% on just about each and every day of seeing a shower, maybe even a storm, but it has been more widely scattered in the form of rain chances lately, and that's really helped keep our temperatures below the triple-digit mark. But if we don't have anything in the way of rain chances Saturday and Sunday, that's only going to continue to lead to a warm-up. But I was telling you Monday was going to be that day that we typically are kind of having the consensus that all the models are at least hinting at 100 degrees, maybe even higher. And you will see some rain chances in the near vicinity. And the reason I've still elected for a high temperature of 101 is because, number one, we're still going to have ample time as we go into the early part of the afternoon. Again, these rain chances that we do have, if they pop up, going to be pretty scattered in nature because there's not a lot of organization with whatever this is across the states like South Carolina, eastern Georgia, northern Florida. And you can see that this doesn't even encompass all of central Georgia, number one. And number two, this is just the GFS model. This is just that green shade that you see. We're not seeing the European model in blue get on board with this. So not a lot of agreement that we will even see rain as we go into Monday, but it does look like the chance is a little bit better than what we have for Saturday and Sunday at least, because none of the models are showing any rain. Now we go into Tuesday, scattered rain chances are still lingering all around us, mainly down towards the south and the southwest. And then we go into Wednesday. This looks like the European is hinting at more widespread showers, but the GFS not necessarily on board with that or trending a little bit later in timing. But it does look like rain chances are in the near vicinity of us, and they're probably going to be of the scattered nature as we go throughout next week. But still, it's something that is really not going to help in terms of limiting that warm up each and every day. Now, we were talking about yesterday, we have a system that we are going to continue to monitor, a potential area of development in the northern Gulf. Yesterday, it had a 10% chance of developing over the next 2 days and over the next 7 days. Well, as of the 8 a.m. update this morning, those chances are exactly the same. This area has crossed over Florida now. It looks like whatever area right now is kind of situated just off the coast of the toe of the boot of Louisiana. And the big thing that I want to continue to emphasize with this, obviously you see something so close to home as the chance of developing tropics-wise, you start to kind of panic a little bit, maybe just get a little bit scared, but obviously given the sensitivity of everything that happened last year, that is completely understandable. But this is not going to impact our forecast whatsoever. This is going to continue to move over towards the west. This is more than likely just going to bring a lot of rain to coastal areas of Louisiana and over into Texas, maybe even portions of northeastern Mexico right here. But overall, this continues to move away from us. So that is a big reason why we are seeing little to no rain chances by Saturday and Sunday, because a lot of the moisture in the forecast is going to continue to push away from us associated with this area of potential development. Now, yesterday I was telling you that I might have a little more confidence in this forming as opposed to our last system last week, which is literally following almost the exact same path. It just really kind of did a loop around all that moisture and came back over here in the northern Gulf. And it does look like this is going to remain over that warm sector of water in the northern Gulf. But the chances of development haven't seen an uptick over the last 24 hours, and this is going to continue to move westward. I'm going to need to see a little bit better agreement in the chances of development in order to feel confident that this might get our fourth named storm of the year, which would be Dexter. So right now I'm still remaining of pretty low confidence that this will form into anything of a named storm, but we'll continue to monitor it. Of course, that's another name we have to tick off the list, and then that would take us down to, I believe, the E or the F letter. I think it is the E letter. Haven't really looked too much in the future. Tropics have been relatively quiet so far this time of year, but we'll continue to keep you updated. The main message I wanted to show you with this graphic: this is not going to interact with our forecast whatsoever, and this is not going to impact us whatsoever, whether what forms or what doesn't form. It's just going to send a bunch of rain along coastal portions of Texas and Louisiana. So let's go to your 7-day forecast, and oh boy, it is just a scorcher and kind of hard to look at. I tried to stand in front of Monday and Tuesday so much during the morning show today because I just didn't really want to be the bearer of bad news. But David texted me last night and he was saying somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be the bad guy and put a 100 there on the 7-day. Saw a lot of agreement this morning, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to have to get back on board with you and double down on that forecast right now. So today and tomorrow, make the most of them. Yes, we may have slightly more rain chances than Saturday and Sunday, but it is going to be scorching hot by Saturday and Sunday, and we're just going to continue that. Even if we have a downtick in the humidity for Monday and Tuesday, those high temperatures are still going to be very, very hot and not very opportune with going back to school on Tuesday and Wednesday in Peach and Houston counties. So of course, make sure you're filling up your water bottle. And if we are seeing a good consensus, it's going to be hot everywhere by the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday. Wouldn't doubt that a lot of kids are going to have an indoor recess. But go ahead and make the most out of the below average and near average temperatures while we do have them before the warmest numbers of the year in 2025 start to settle in. That'll do it for your extended forecast. We'll be back here at 10:30 tomorrow once again for a weekend preview.